€1 or €2 per meal.
You spend your time partying a lot and drinking.
I'm on quite a low budget, so
Do you think it can be cheaper?
You could do like £10 a day if you want.
Yeah.
Worth every money.
What makes it worth?
Dive, snorkeling, but also
Ladies and gentlemen, how much money do you need for a trip to Indonesia? Is Indonesia really the cheapest country in Southeast Asia? Is it worth the money? Let's find out. How much did you budget for the whole 1 month trip to Indonesia?
I think it's like 2,000
Euro.
euro in total.
Is it including the flight?
Yeah, because the flight is like €900 from us to here.
How much do you spend for accommodation, transportation, and food?
Each day, like €20 for food.
Each person or per person?
Yeah. And for hostel, first we stayed at hotels and now at hostels because the money, we don't have enough.
How much is it?
I think it's
for €5 per person per night.
Yeah.
So it's very cheap.
And about the transportation, do you walk or do you order Grab bike?
Yes, we have the Gojek scooters,
Okay.
the Gojek bikes.
How much was it?
Yeah, those are very cheap. It's like 30 cents to go somewhere. And the Grab is also maybe like €5 in total for 1 hour. So that are good prices.
Do you think the price can be cheaper, like if you were more selective?
Yes, because we go mostly to restaurants. But if you go to street markets, then it will be very much cheaper.
I agree.
How much did you budget for your whole 35-day trip to Indonesia?
We haven't set a budget, but we live in cheap hostels and use cheap restaurants, and then we just see how much we spend at the last.
transport, I think it's about 1.5 Indonesian rupees. We have used trains from Jakarta to Yogyakarta. We use train and from Yogyakarta to Malang.
We live in cheap hostels, but we try to get private rooms, so it's a little bit more expensive than the dorms where you share with others, but it's still pretty cheap. 150k
Yeah,
each.
150k each
Yeah, person.
night.
Person.
Yes. Tomorrow night it's 55 per person because we got a very cheap room. That is the cheapest we have gotten yet.
How about the food?
It's about 250k per meal, a bit less sometimes. This breakfast, it was only like 90 combined. Sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 300.
Do you think it can be cheaper?
Yeah, it probably can with the food. It can be cheaper.
If we went to the markets, the local markets, and bought food, it would be a lot cheaper. But you can get a bad stomach from the market food, we have heard. So we try not to do that.
Any other expenses?
We went to Borobudur yesterday and also Prambanan in Yogyakarta. And that is pretty expensive because they have local prices and also tourist prices.
How much did you budget for this whole 3-month trip to Indonesia?
I think 3,000.
3,000 euro per person.
Yeah.
How much do you spend for accommodation, transportation, and food?
Around €5 for accommodation per night.
Each person?
Each person, yeah. And for food, like 10k rupiah and 50k
Per meal.
Yeah. Normally we go in Warungs.
For what?
In Warungs we go to
Warung.
Warung, sorry. In the local places because
Okay.
we want to have the experience.
We eat a lot of nasi goreng, a lot of mie goreng.
You like it?
We like it a lot. Gado-gado.
Yeah, gado is
Yes,
my favorite.
because like it's right, the local food costs a lot less than the Western food,
Yeah.
and we also appreciate it more since we
Yeah,
are
yeah.
in this place here.
How about the transportation?
From island to island, we take the ferry. It depends if it's slow or fast. But the slow ferries cost like around 20k, and fast maybe 85k.
And when we stay fixed in some places for one week or 5 days, during the day we often rent scooters.
Yeah.
And yes,
On
and,
the islands.
How much
mostly.
is it?
and it's for €3, €4 a day.
Any other expenses?
The attractions, often also when we were in Ubud in Bali or other places, visiting waterfalls or going to beaches or stuff like that, has an extra fee of 30,000, 50,000. It's a good thing and a right thing, but we didn't expect it as an extra fee.
How much did you budget for your whole 1 month trip?
Ideally, I don't want to spend more than 3,000 Australian dollars, not including the flight.
How much was the flight?
About 450 Australian one way. Well, my accommodation is usually about 10 Australian dollars at hostels. Food, so I spend about 5 Australian, about $2-3 a meal. Transportation depends. Some days you just spend walking, so you don't spend anything, but So you rent a scooter, costs about what, $10 a day, $15 a day.
Which island's budget is that? Like
That's the Java budget.
Java budget.
Yeah.
Is Bali budget different?
Yeah, the Bali budget's definitely different. Well, the accommodation's about the same, but you spend your time partying a lot and drinking, so somehow end up spending $100 on alcohol and $50 on food. It gets expensive. But.
How much did you budget for the whole 2-month trip and 5-week trip?
My budget is around 1,500.
For 2 months, it's like 2,500 euros.
Is it including the flight to Indonesia?
For me, no.
How
Yeah.
much was the flight from?
It was around 500 euros.
500.
Yeah, one way.
Me, it was like 200 euros from Laos to Indonesia.
So for accommodation, I tend to spend on average 5 euros to 8, but in Bali it's way more expensive. I think on Lombok I went to a more western part and there was 20 euros a night.
For food, I only eat local food. It's around 1 or 2 euros per meal.
How about the transportation?
I think between islands I was paying 200,000. Well, it depends. Like between the Gili Islands, it was 85.
If I have to do long distance, I take train or bus. For example, from Jakarta to Bandung, it was only 150 rupiah. And
So cheap.
yeah, and from Bandung to Yogyakarta, it was like 300,000.
Any other expenses?
A lot of activities, like hiking, diving. I went diving a lot, and diving one time cost us 100 euros for 2 dives. It was in Lombok. But in Gilis, you can dive for 30 euros per diving session, and that's really good.
Do you think those expenses can be cheaper if you were more selective?
For sure, I think. I think you can go way more cheap if you took care a lot of only buying maybe more street foods or, from very, very local restaurants only. But I think even though I have quite a tight budget, I don't want to be too strict with myself. For example, diving is more expensive, but I won't have such good diving spots in Europe, so it's very important for me to do it here.
You can find dorm at 1 euro or 2 euros sometimes, but sometimes it's good to have our comfort, like to have warm water and everything. So sometimes I prefer to spend a little bit more.
How much did you budget for your whole 1 to 2 month trip to Indonesia?
I don't really have a budget. I pay around 10 euros for my hostel each night. And then for food, I think also in total every day 10 euros, maybe 8. But my budget, I don't have really a budget. I pay around maybe 1,000, 1,500 each month. If I don't have any money, then I will go back to the Netherlands.
How about your flight?
Before I was a month in Thailand. Then I took a plane from Phuket to Jakarta. I paid 110 euros.
About the transportation, how do you get to one place to another?
I grouped the Grab a lot.
Okay.
So mostly the scooter bikes.
Yeah.
Maybe for 30 minutes I pay about 1 euro or something.
Any other expenses?
On Friday I will do the tour to Bromo, Ijen and to the waterfalls.
How much is the trip?
Almost 2 million rupiah. It's included 2 nights stay and with food. Before I was in Bandung.
Yeah.
And I did a tour over there in the south. So I went to the crater and all the fields over there. That kind of things you pay the most of it. So also that tour was also around 600,000, I think.
You guys have a budget for this whole trip, 1 month trip to Indonesia?
Not like a strict budget, but we had like a budget I wanted to kind of stay within. I think in a month, probably about like £1,000.
Yeah, I'd say
around
around 1,000.
Per person?
Yeah.
Been traveling Southeast Asia before this and flew from there, and that probably includes the flight as well.
Flight.
Yeah, it was like maybe £100, something like that.
Can you break down to its spending?
A meal's like £1.
Yeah.
So £1 to £1.50 for
Yeah.
us. So it's a lot cheaper.
Which is-
whereas in Bali,
it's like
yeah.
£5 to £10
Yeah,
a
like-
meal.
How about the accommodation?
Here we're paying about €4 a night.
Bali probably spending like 200,000 rupiah for a place, and here's like 80,000 rupiah, so it's like half the price.
We're getting the train tomorrow, I think, or the day after to
Ijen?
Ijen.
over to Ijen. Yeah,
Ijen, yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
yeah, that's correct.
we've been told it's like only 65,000 or
Yeah.
something, so which is
Yeah.
like really cheap.
Yeah.
And like we didn't even know that was an option initially, and we were going to go via car, and we were being quoted like $1 million. So 65,000.
You save a lot of money if you want
Perfect.
to. Yeah. I got a flight to Surabaya from Bali, like literally the day before for like £25. So like and 1 hour flight, £25. It's like it's worth it.
This whole price you have said, do you think they can be cheaper?
Yeah.
It depends how much you want to really splash out. But if you were just like exploring the local areas, eating out, and not really heavily drinking, you could do it on like £600 in like, areas like
You could do like £10 a day if you want.
Yeah,
Like
Java.
in Java, like
Yeah.
food and accommodation, you could do £10 a day.
Yeah.
Which is like 200,000 rupiah.
I think the only thing that makes it expensive here is obviously the trips.
The most expensive thing we've actually
Oh,
done
yeah,
is the
well,
Komodo tour,
Yeah.
which was about £150. So you can there's a boat trip around from Lombok to Flores.
How much did you budget your whole 1 month trip to Indonesia?
I've been traveling for 5 months, so I've got here and I'm hoping that I can keep my budget below £250, not including the flight. I went from Kuala Lumpur to Jakarta, which cost like about £50. So accommodation, like the cheaper end, is about £3.50, but more commonly I'd say it's for hostels and stuff, which is about £5. Transportation for longer journeys, it can be fairly expensive, around 200,000 for like a 6-hour train ride. But local transport within a city is very cheap. Like a grab bike, you can get 20 minutes down the road for about 50p.
Do you rent motorbike too?
Yeah, I rent a motorbike to get around because I like to go quite far and to quite a lot of places, so it's the cheapest way. I got my bike for 400,000 for 1 week.
About the food now.
I'm on quite a low budget, so I try and get meals for about £1.20, which is really good. So over the day, I spend around a £5.
Any other expenses?
A lot of the beautiful natural places, there's usually an entrance fee. So definitely look into that before going, because a few times I've gone and I wasn't expecting to pay. But yeah, it varies. Sometimes it's very cheap, sometimes it's more expensive.
How much did you budget for your whole 2 month trip to Indonesia?
We spend 8,000 euros all.
All
Including
flight,
all.
diving,
Yes,
tourists, for food, 900 euros
900 euro in
for
total.
2 months.
Accommodation is around 10 to 15 euros for 1 night. And in Raja Ampat it was 50 euros, but with food, with all.
This expenses is which island?
Bali, Lombok, Java, and Raja Ampat.
Which island is more expensive here?
Raja Ampat, it's
Yes.
more expensive.
Raja Ampat is the most expensive.
But Raja Ampat, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So Raja Ampat is worth the price.
Yes.
It's
yes,
the
yes.
paradise.
We do a lot of things. We do dive, snorkeling, but also waterfalls, volcano, trek, cities. So
Do you think those expenses can be cheaper?
yes.
Yeah, like
I think when we have when we eat, we don't always go in very little on the road to eat nasi goreng at 10 rupiah.
last question. Was the trip worth the money?
100%. So I think even for more money, like I think the scenery, the people, everything, the culture is so beautiful. All of these experiences are such a once in a lifetime moments, and just alone, as she said, like the kindness and helpfulness of the people, it just infects me when they smile, so brightly. And I would always want to come back.
The people here are really nice, always so gentle and smiley.
Definitely.
Yes, for
Worth
me,
every
yes.
money.
What makes it worth?
It's a beautiful country, to be honest, to start. And the food is really cheap, so you don't have to worry about that a lot.
And very good.
What kind of food did you eat so far?
Fried
a
rice.
lot.
Fried rice.
But fried rice is our favorite.
Yes.
Or noodles.
You learn more about yourself and you meet so many good people like backpackers or local people. You discover a new culture, a new country.
We've got to see quite a lot of Indonesia so far.
It still doesn't really
And-
feel like, when you look at a map, you still feel like you've seen none of it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, every island is very different. Like landscapes, like people are different, and we.
The sea.
Yes.
We get out to see some cities and experience Indonesia for next to nothing.
Just from the economic perspective, like confronting the places here with the places in our place, like the difference in proportion with how much here something costs that our place costs.
Yeah.
It's so cheap. Like it's like 10 times cheaper.
Yeah, the proportion between quality and price is really pretty unfair, you know, because it's too cheap for the good things that we're doing.
So definitely worth the money. I would recommend to anyone to come to Indonesia.
What do you think about those budgets? Could they be cheaper? Please write down your budget below, whether you are a foreign or a local tourist, so we can create a reference for others.